The screaming of dragons filled the void of his foggy memory. Wretched cries of anguish and pain beyond imagination echoed in his mind. Fleeting images of blood and piercing pain from long, thick needles pressed into his body tortured his senses, until a radiant heat spread over his chest, and a blue glow lit the shadows of his nightmares. "What are we going to do with him, Zarek?" a gruff voice asked through the fog. "Help him," answered a softer-toned one. "He's already been more trouble than he's worth, and there's something not right about him. That hole in his chest has healed faster than anything I've ever seen. I don't think even your elf magic can heal a man that fast." "All the more reason to help him," the other voice said. Through a blurry mosaic of watery colors, he saw an elf leaning over him. Kind green eyes on a narrow, pale-skinned face greeted him. Thin red lips parted in a smile. Pointed ears poked through golden hair tied behind his head. Blinding, bright rays of sunlight streaked through the kaleidoscope of green, orange, and red leaves of the trees overhead. He felt tears run down the sides of his face. The sounds of singing birds and running water became more apparent as his senses awakened. "Do not try to move. You've been grievously injured," the elf said, removing his hands from over his chest. The glow dimmed, and the heat receded. "Not that you can tell," added a gruff, black-bearded, broad-shouldered dwarf, a head and a half shorter than the elf. The dwarf leaned in over him, then jumped back just as fast when their eyes met. He pulled the elf away from him and stammered, "Did you see those eyes? I'm telling you, we should throw this one back in the river. It ain't natural him healing like that, and them eyes don't belong to any young man I ever seen." "Yes," the elf said softly. "He does appear to have carried much more of life than he should have. He has seen much pain." The elf reached for a pot sitting over the fire. He poured a steaming cup of broth. "This will help revive you. It is from the plant Elmasdur, from the hills of Hrothgar." The injured man shivered, reached forth a trembling hand, and immediately became aware of the pain in his chest, just below his heart. He looked down to realize that he was lying on a blanket, propped up against a log. He was cold, wet, and barefoot. His jerkin was blood-soaked and had been torn open in front. There was a large purple scar on the left side of his chest. It was covered in a white balm. He drew in a shuddering breath, but stopped short, unable to fill his lungs with air. He looked to the elf and the nervous fidgeting dwarf standing behind him. They seemed quite concerned about something. The elf, Zarek, glided across the pebbles soundlessly in his high, soft leather boots. He appeared young as elves do, his green eyes sharp and clear. The dwarf stomped across the glen in his steel-shod boots, wiped his hands on grease-stained, patched black denim trousers. Sun glinted off the heavy silver belt-buckle he wore. The thick corded muscles of his arms bulged as he squeezed the grip of a two-headed axe in his right hand. They were camped at the edge of a forest. Saddle packs, bedrolls, and a metal shield with two crossed axes in the center rested beside a spotted brown pony and a handsome black stallion, both staring at him from the shade of the trees. Tall elms reached into the sky overhead. Broken rays of sunlight cut through the canopy of multicolored leaves and warmed the chill from his skin. "What happened?" he asked, startled by the sound of his own deep voice. "That is what we're wanting to know, young fella," the dwarf said from behind the elf's shoulder. "We dragged your scrawny butt out of the river this morning, so what are you for? Why was ye shot? Out with it, afore we throw you back in."